Morning, everybody. Everybody get some coffee and fruit or food, bagels. Okay. So, welcome. Happy you're here. Just a couple quick announcements. I better make sure I do this right. So you might have noticed, or maybe not, but you will, but we're trying to elevate the visibility of your businesses. And so we've sort of entered the 21st century in terms of doing a lot more social media around the SBEEP program. And some of you know we have that co-marketing site where we actually have all your businesses, your logos and stuff, and we're trying to market your businesses to the community. Well, all of that is enhanced the more followers we have. So you'll see there's a QR code that got passed around. Everybody should have a QR code. And what we ask you to do, if you could, with your camera, is scan that and get into it'll take you to the social media platform. And if you click that you like things or whatever, and if we get everybody to start doing that, it elevates the whole thing and we'll start reaching a lot more people. So please jump onto the social media and our whole purpose is to make these businesses super visible to everybody in South Bend, everybody in Michiana, everybody around here. So that's the one thing. Second thing, we're just, some of you are involved right now, but we're just finishing up, literally just finishing up the consulting phase of the program where we have Notre Dame students consulting to your businesses, which means we come to the end of the year, which means we're in the middle of the intake for next year's cohort. So Mary should have passed around some flyers or posters. If you know people that you think would benefit from this program, especially people in more difficult circumstances, please refer them. We are almost full, but we have some spots still for the program, and it'll start in February. And that's all my announcements. So I want to show you, I'm going to try to show you, Sophia may have to help me, but I want to try to show you a video. See if I can get this to work. There it is. You ready? I'm tech challenged, so.
The Great Recession, financial bailouts, Wall Street opulence, Bernie Madoff, all wrought havoc on America's integrity. So Honest Tea conducted a social experiment to find the most honest city in America and hopefully redeem the land of Abraham Lincoln. We set up unmanned pop-up Honest Tea dispensers in the 6 biggest cities in America, where the public could take a tea and pay $1 for it. Or not. Hidden cameras were set up nearby, and then we watched people wrestle with their conscience. Did it work? Yes, mainly. People were intrigued.
You would be very ballsy to walk up and just say, "Oh, I don't feel like this is the most honest corner in the world." And I was surprised to see like a tub of money just sitting there.
On the whole, America proved itself to be 87% honest. But apparently it wasn't just us watching.
Honesty is conducting a social experiment in downtown Chicago and around the country.
Honesty on Wall Street, how about honesty on Wall Street? It's an old marketing move for honesty, challenging Snapple, the marketeer, right here on their own home turf.
We had 280 million total impressions, 160 press stories, $2.8 million in earned media, and Honesty experienced double-digit growth in each market. Oh, and Wall Street was more honest than Los Angeles.
He's looking around. He's like, people in LA are so good at cameras too.
That's what everyone's really looking for.
We are certainly landing.
So what did you see? What did you see? Yes.
They were doing free marketing by allowing that study to take place in the large cities, and that the individuals be honest enough that they're going to.
Everybody hear that? Okay, they can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. She got food in her mouth.
They actually promoted free marketing for their brand, and they did that study, that case study, basically in the large cities, to see how many individuals would be honest enough to pay for that tea.
Right. So, Connie, what do you see?
I said it was a really creative marketing scheme. I don't want to call it a scheme. I thought.
It was a scheme.
Yeah.
They weren't doing any study.
Yeah, and it really worked. I thought it was really creative, and it was good. And then it just that simple marketing deal that they did took them and blew them up. It showed that most people are honest.
Yeah, we don't care about that.
You don't care about that? No.
What are we trying to do here?
Very creative marketing.
But what are we trying to do here?
Sell product.
Sell tea.
Sell tea.
I mean, it's all nice and good that people are honest, but that wasn't the point. We're trying to sell tea, right? What are you trying to do? You're trying to sell services. You're trying to sell products, right? They sold a shitload of tea. That's what you care about if you're an entrepreneur, making sales happen, right? But the question is, how do they do it?
Presentation.
How much money did they spend?
And the staging and
They had to set up some tables downtown in some cities and put some tea out there and a bucket to put money in. They didn't spend nothing. Companies like them spend millions on advertising. They didn't spend nothing. But then what happened? What did they play on? Learn. You want to learn from these things. What did they play on? People's conscience and honesty and we're Americans. What do we like? We like competition, right? Do you want to be the most dishonest city in America? No, you want your city to be better. So they're playing to civic pride. They're playing to people's sense of competitiveness. They're intriguing people with something like, well, will people just rip them off and take the honesty, or will they pay for it? It's very clever. They spent no money, but what's the key piece of this whole puzzle? Did you see those numbers at the back end of the video? Millions of dollars of free marketing exposure, free media coverage. If you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't get any better than that. Millions of dollars. Millions of impressions. People that saw the Honest Tea name, that maybe never heard Honest Tea before this. For the cost of setting up some tables in some cities. But what's the key to the whole thing? They didn't talk much about it, but what would they have had to do? If they'd included South Bend, they set up the table, and then what did they do? They what?
They left the table.
They left the table and put some cameras up, but then what did they do?
They watched everything and they posted it, I think. They proved that people were there.
They did, but they did something more than that. They promoted it to the media. They sent PR releases that didn't cost nothing to the radio stations, to the television stations, to the newspaper about what are they trying to do? There's a word for this. They're trying to create buzz. Buzz. It's a form of something we're going to talk about today called buzz marketing. They're trying to create buzz. And how do you create buzz? Get people talking. That's it. You're trying to influence word of mouth. And why are we all trying to influence word of mouth in this room? Because you ain't got no money for television advertising or expensive radio advertising, or if you do, great, go for it. But most of us don't have money for conventional media, so we got to think different. This is what I mean by thinking different. I'm not telling you to set up tables and do what they did. I'm telling you to think the way they thought in terms of let's do something clever, something that gets buzz, that gets people talking. And then let's get the media, and all those media go, what the heck's going on here? We better send a camera crew down and watch this, right? Most of that video was, you know, those guys on local TV on the news, was those guys, right? They managed to stimulate interest from the media to come look at this thing, and millions of dollars of free marketing. So I just want to start with that so that we plant the seed here in terms of what we're talking about in this whole session. If we're going to look at marketing, and we're going to look at marketing for your businesses, and we know you don't start with big marketing budgets, so we got to do something different. So the theme of our story, and it picks up and builds on the session on marketing that we did in the boot camp, is to think more strategically, but act like a guerrilla. Think smart, look at the whole picture, think about what you're trying to achieve. That's all I mean by think strategically, but act like a guerrilla. And I'll explain that guerrilla thing in a lot more detail. But that's the theme. As you approach marketing for your business, think strategically, think smart, but then act clever, act creative, act different. try some things that are non-conventional. So we begin with, well, why not just use, when I say conventional advertising, I'm talking about radio, television, print, which could be magazines or newspapers, outdoor, which could be sides of buses or billboards, and the internet. Placing ads, usually through something called Google ads or Facebook ads on the internet. The problem with that is it's expensive. It's not just expensive, it has a lot of other limitations. But for all of us, the problem is it's expensive. And it's more expensive for a reason you'll see in just a second. But it's also, and this might surprise you, you think all these companies out there that are big and successful, you think they're real smart because they're big and successful. But I'm telling you, most of the marketing money they spend is completely wasted. Because conventional advertising is also not especially efficient. Connie, if you're selling, well, what you got there in front of you, Connie?
My name's Connie Creighton. I'm the owner of Oils of Nature LLC. I make all-natural vegan skin and hair products that are effective, and they inherit the natural healing powers of nature. I brought some beauty soaps with me today. I brought some hair-stimulating growth oil with me today, and I also have a Silkening Baby hair and scalp oil, and they're up for trial here. I would like to make a little money today, but if I end up just giving you product so you can try it, it grows hair, and my skin for my age is silky soft. So that's what we're doing here today, and learn how to market this.
Okay, so let's just stop for a second. What's the big wake-up call when you become an entrepreneur? What's Connie doing right now? She's selling. She's selling. I'm looking around the room, right? What am I looking for? Well, products would be good because then I know you're selling. What else am I looking for? I'm looking for how many of you have a t-shirt or a polo shirt or a jacket on right now that has your business on it?
Right here.
There's one. I want to see 100%. I want everybody doing that.
Well, actually, I'm a whole one, so I'm my brand. So.
There you go. I'm looking to see how many brought business cards with you today and make sure you're not leaving the room without 15 people getting your business card. What I'm trying to say is you got to be marketing all the time. You can't turn it off. And I know, because I've come to know many of you, for some of you it's just not natural. It's awkward. It's like I don't like to go up to people and push myself and push my products. I get that. I understand it. I don't either. But you just got to do it. You just got to be that way. You get on an elevator, you start talking to somebody, they might be somebody who will buy from you, will do business with you. But you just got to be marketing all the time, and that's why I love that Connie's got her products right there. But if it's Connie, right, think about this. If Connie took an ad in the South Bend newspaper, big quarter-page ad in a newspaper, and pays what she'd have to pay for that ad. What's the problem with that ad?
It's only get the people who read newspapers, for one thing, and
So you're paying, and the South Bend newspaper will tell you that one ad in their newspaper will reach, they'll give you a number. They'll say 30,000 people will see your ad. And they got some data to maybe support that, right? What's the problem with that 30,000 people? 99% of them are people that ain't never going to buy those skin products. You're reaching people that are irrelevant, and you're paying to reach all those people. And so conventional advertising doesn't work much of the time. First of all, what are we all really adept at? Well, if you drove here this morning and you had your car radio on and it took 15 minutes to get here, how many ads were you exposed to in that 15 minutes? Let's say 10. How many can remember one of them? The answer is none of us can remember any of those ads, even though it was just a couple minutes ago. Why does that happen? Because we're all real adept at screening them out, at ignoring them. When we talk about marketing, what are we talking about? What's a more practical word to explain marketing for your businesses? Let's take promotion one step further. What's a better word than that? Better word than that is communication. You're trying to communicate with customers. You're trying to have a conversation with customers, right? So think about communication. Now, I don't know if you played this game when you were a child, but remember that game where I tell you a story? And then you do the best you can to tell the same story to her. And then she does the best she can to tell that story to her. And we go all the way around the room, and I come over here, and he tells me the story. What story am I going to hear? I'm going to hear a story that has nothing to do with my original story. Why? Because communication is very imperfect. What do we all do? We try to take the message we're trying to convey in our mind and put it into words, and the words that mean something to you don't necessarily mean the same thing to her, so she changes the words to be more consistent with. So here's what happens. If I showed you a video, it's a factual video, just facts. No bias, just facts. But it's a video about abortion, okay? And this half of the room is strongly anti-abortion. And this half of the room is strongly pro-choice, right? And the video has it's just objective, here's some facts. And then I give you a test on the video afterwards. And all I'm doing is testing whether you heard what was said in the video. What will the results show me? I will assume these people must have watched a totally different video than these people did. Why? Well, the fancy theoretical words are selective reception. You selectively pick pieces and parts of messages that you choose to hear. So the message I heard isn't the message you heard. So when you communicate with customers, the message one customer hears isn't necessarily the message a second customer hears. If you've got a flyer, what person interprets from your flyer is going to be different. Selective reception. And then something called perceptual distortion. People actually change messages to be consistent with their beliefs. And then what else happens on top of all this? Well, in a day in your life, this morning, right, till you go to sleep tonight, how many bits of information will you be hit with that you have to process? Huge numbers, right? Somebody speaking to you. Radio's on. You see a billboard. You listen to me talk. You glance at a flyer. You turn on the internet. We're not perfect information processors. In fact, we're very imperfect information processors. So what do we learn how to do? Screen out most of that information. So do you start to understand the communication challenge of the entrepreneur? You're trying to break through all that. That's why conventional advertising is no guarantee of anything. And then, with conventional advertising, one of the key things is not just hitting the right people, but hitting them at the right time. Hitting them at the right time. If you're selling Thanksgiving Day turkeys and a person got the message 3 weeks ago or a week from now, you didn't hit them at the right time. So, my point is, to do advertising communication effectively, you got to be doing it all the time. So, if I want to communicate a message to you, and y'all want to communicate messages about your businesses to clients, if I want to communicate a message to you, what's involved in doing that? What's it take to successfully communicate with somebody? So, Corey is here with us today, filming. He's an entrepreneur in the program. And Corey's been coming to the various things that we do. We'll forget that he's a married man. And as he's been coming to the various things that we do, he's been checking out Diane. Checking her out. And he's decided he's going to go for it. He's going to ask her out to dinner. You with me? What's it take for Corey to successfully communicate to Diane, would you go to dinner with me? Which is no different than, would you buy my product?
Communicate.
To communicate successfully, what's Corey got to do? He's got to get her attention. Why is that a big deal?
Because if you get her attention and get her to
Well,
focus on you at some point,
But why is it hard to get her attention?
because you got to come at her right. You got to come the right way.
There's a lot of things trying to get her attention.
Yeah, you got to come at her right.
That's exactly right. So if you put some blasé flyer up on a board at the barbecue Frankie's about your business, right? The question is, does your flyer get people's attention? Or is it just lost in a maze of other flyers and notices and so forth on the board there at Frankie's? And so the first problem, think about the drive in here. Most of those ads on the radio didn't get your attention. So you were able to completely ignore them, right? So Corey, hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot here, buddy. Corey's got to get Diane's attention. Then what? He's got to get her interested in the message. He's got to communicate in a way where she doesn't always trying to sell me something. I'm just going to ignore him. Or he's trying to, he's got to get, oh, it's Corey. I wonder what he has to say. He doesn't talk to me very often. I'm interested in what this message might be. All right? So he gets her attention. He gets her interested in the message. And then what? Understanding about what, Connie?
Exactly what it is he wants out of her.
Ah. Is he just asking me for dinner because he doesn't really plan to take me for dinner? He's trying to sell me his video services?
He needs to be specific.
Is this a romantic dinner or a business dinner or just a fun social dinner? She'd have to understand that to make any decision about buying. Right? Will he actually show up? Is it a Dutch treat where he pays his part and or is he paying? There's a whole lot of things about your business the client has to understand to make any kind of decision. Okay? He's got her attention. She's interested. She understands it's going to be kind of a fun social dinner, and he's paying, right? And then what's the question? Do you believe Corey? Does Diane believe Corey? Why would you not believe the message? Come on down to Billy Bob's. We've got the lowest prices in town. You ever seen anything like that? Do you believe he really has the lowest prices in town? No. Come on down to Johnny B's. We will not be undersold. What are you immediately thinking? Yeah, you will. I know a lot of people undersell you. We tend to look at advertising. There's actually a legal term called seller's talk. We assume the seller is puffing it up. We don't assume they're necessarily lying, but they're exaggerating. They're puffing it up. Go ahead, Connie.
I had a mentor tell me one time when I was in the Spark Women's program is that you sell yourself, you sell your business, and then you sell product. You got to get them to look at you as a person of integrity.
Right, and it's all communication. That flyer, that sales pitch, that brochure you got, it's all forms of communication. So I got to get them to believe me. Now I got to get them to think this would be fun. A lot of times people go in and they start saying, I'm better than the competitors. And the customer's going, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're selling, but you're telling me you're better. Well, you can't be telling them you're better until they first understand who you are and what you're selling. There's a communication process involved here. Okay, I like the idea. You're now trying to create preference. Now then you want them to act. Can I have a sale? Can I put you down for 2 units? If that's how communication works, what's it tell you? Think about carefully. If that's how communication works, what's it tell you? It's a process.
It has to be reciprocal. It has to go both ways.
Yes. You have to engage the person. Now, let's stop right there. Think about what you've been thinking about doing with your marketing. Right? So you decide you're going to put up posters or flyers at key places downtown where the kind of people that you're targeting go. Is exposure to one flyer one time, even if the person sees your flyer, is exposure to one flyer one time enough to move somebody from getting their attention, to get them interested, to get them to understand, to get them to believe, to get them to like, to get them to develop a conviction or a preference to buy? Will one flyer do that? It cannot do that. What's it start to tell you? What? Got to be repetitive. Got to hit people multiple times. The first time we put on this program, so we're going into the third year. The first time we put on this program, what was my problem? Who am I trying to reach? I'm more interested in trying to reach people who aren't helped with entrepreneurship, that don't have resources, that are dealing with more adversity and disadvantage, right? How do those people think about me? I don't know who you are. You look like some old white guy, and you're at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's never done anything for me. I don't start with people going, Mike, we love you. Come tell us what you got, and we want it. It's just the opposite. People going, not interested in that. So what's my communication problem? I got to figure out who my target audience is, right? I got to be strategic in reaching out to them. And what starts to become apparent when we start to think about that audience?
What is my end goal? How do you get into that audience?
Well, yeah, that's right, Connie. And so if my analysis is correct, a lot of the people I'm trying to reach might be people of color. Okay? Well, if I simply distinguish Hispanics from African Americans, what will I quickly learn? No, that you ain't all the same. That the way I would communicate to reach the Hispanic market is going to be totally different than the way I'd communicate to reach the African American market. Does that make sense? No, because where I reach them, where I communicate to them, who their opinion leaders are, who they go to, hey, you heard about this thing? Is this thing any good or not? Who they rely on for word of mouth is different.
So you've got to get beyond doubt.
Yeah, but my point, I do. My point is, you need to start to think about your market, your target market, and how you communicate to them, and what? You got to hit them multiple times to communicate effectively. So what do you think my strategy was with the SBEAT program, trying to market it? Okay, so to me, I had to pursue unique marketing efforts for this target audience versus that target audience, but I'm trying to reach people multiple times. Why do I need to reach people multiple times? If you go someplace where we put up posters and flyers at the library or someplace downtown or some of the Mexican restaurants so we had a targeted strategy of where we're going to put posters and flyers, right? And somebody sees a poster once. First time they see a poster, what do? either ignore it entirely or they notice it but they don't think much about it. Okay? Now, if within a week or so they see something else related to our program or they hear something from somebody about our program, what do they think in the second time they're exposed to something? I've seen that somewhere before. I got some familiarity with it. I don't know enough about it, but I've seen it before. But now I've pulled them in. Now I got them thinking a little bit, right? And if I can hit them a third time, by the third time they're ready to go, is that something that might be for me? Let me check out this web address. And when they come to my website, I'm hitting them a fourth time, right? And, well, what else did I do? I could have made a video. I didn't have any money. In fact, I started this program with no money. And we still have no money, but
You may have created a buzz.
tried to create a buzz, but my belief was simply promoting it with flyers and posters and radio show interviews or whatever wasn't enough. So I attempted to figure out who might be influencers, right? Influencers. And so I started asking around. And so one of the influencers is a fellow named Reverend Hardy Blake, right? What's important about Reverend Hardy Blake? He's got a network. He's got some legitimacy or credibility with that network. If he says, yeah, this Notre Dame thing, this boot camp, it's legit. You ought to check it out. Might that get somebody to take another look if I can reach the right influencers? Right? I'm not trying to say that our marketing approach was all that great. I'm just trying to give you the principles that need to guide your own marketing efforts. And hitting people enough times is the key, hitting the right people. So when we do marketing communication, you need to have the right message. Think about your message carefully. Not a boring message, not a message that's got too much content or copy, succinct, that grabs a person and gets their attention, gets them interested. You got to be reaching the right audience with the right message. You want to reach them at the right time, right? So one of the businesses in the program is Sinai Chocolates. Yvonne sells artisan chocolates, really nice chocolates, right? Well, if she does a promotion that's related to Christmas, because what do you think Yvonne discovers? Selling chocolates. When do people buy chocolates? Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. 3 big peaks. Her sales are relatively lower the other months of the year, but she's got 3 big peaks, right? So if she's going to do a special Christmas promotion, the timing of it's important. When people see whatever she does, whether it's social media, whether it's flyers, whether it's something else. Okay? But what do you notice on my slide? The single most important thing that explains communication effectiveness, advertising effectiveness, is frequency. Hitting people enough times. Hitting people enough times. Because you're trying to break through all the noise, all the information bits we're bombarded with, the imperfect nature of communication. Got to hit them enough times. And that's why, for instance, if you're using social media and you're posting once a month, you ain't going to have the effect. You gotta keep working them, keep hitting them. So, let's talk about how to do all this. And what I want to focus on is a simple 4-step process. If there's one thing you've learned, that those of you that have had to endure me, I think the easiest way to master things is to look at it as a process. A couple steps. So, what was the title of the whole thing? Think strategically, act like a gorilla. Okay? The first 3 steps are thinking strategically. Step 4 will be acting like a gorilla. Okay? So, starts with market segmentation. What does that mean?
Choose your market.
Well, we've got an entrepreneur in our program. His name's Adele Badgett. And Adele has a very exciting business. It's a VR store downtown where people can go put on virtual reality, whatever you call those things, masks, I don't know, and have a virtual reality experience in his store, right? We have to start thinking about the market. Well, what's your first question if we were trying to help him with his marketing?
Where are you trying to reach?
Okay, and that's going to be tied in part to where's your store located, right? So the store's downtown, right? What's the problem with downtown? Is what? What's the problem with downtown? Well, are there people who live downtown? Are there people who live downtown? But there are people who live downtown, right? Okay. So, and I'm including, the downtown area, right? So out west side, whatever. There's a market. Why do a lot of people come downtown? There's not a lot of people who go buy suits downtown. There's not a lot of people who go buy stereo equipment downtown. Why do people go downtown?
They're looking for something to do.
Restaurant or bar? Or the Morris Theater, right? But, I mean, that's not it, but disproportionately, most of the people going downtown are going downtown to go to a restaurant, go have dinner, go to a bar, some kind of entertainment, right? What's that immediately start to tell you about your market? Huh? Well, the way I'd market to downtown residents would be different than the way I'd market to people who live in Mishawaka and people who live in Granger and people who are outside downtown, right? What about those people outside downtown? When do they tend to come downtown? Weekends and evenings, right? What's that tell you? You ain't going to see that market at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, right? So if you're trying to get people in your store at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, you got to think cleverly about how to do that, because that market ain't downtown 2 o'clock on. You see what I'm saying? And within those two, there are segments. So let's look at a couple of these. Let me just make the point. This is something in the boot camp was stressed, but segmentation is acknowledging I can't be all things to all people. Segmentation is moving away from that terrible assumption entrepreneurs make that everybody's a customer. Everybody's a customer. No, they're not. Segmentation is acknowledging the distinction between, well, what happens if I had It's not the best metaphor, but if I had a shotgun and I fired a shotgun, what happens? Sprays shot all over the place, right? Meaning what? I might hit my target, but I hit a bunch of other things. That means waste. Waste exposure. What happens if I had the same target, it's a stop sign, and I fire a rifle? What happens? I might miss the target, but if I hit the target, it's a clean hole. And the best example I can give you this, and it's one I share in a boot camp, is this guy we worked with named Bongo. Bongo had a restaurant. His restaurant was in the south side of town, which was the poorest part of town, most gangs, most crime, all the problems, social problems, right where Bongo was. And Bongo opens a restaurant called Bongo's Jerk Hut, which was, he'd take any kind of meat, chicken, beef, and he put jerk seasoning on it so it was spicy, and it was a takeaway restaurant. And Bongo wanted to advertise in the newspaper. Come on down to Bongo's Jerk Hut. If he advertised in the newspaper, that would have been a shotgun approach, because he would have been spraying shot all over the place. He'd be reaching all kinds of people that ain't never going to have the willingness and ability to come down to his store. What Bongo ultimately did was advertise, picked five churches, advertised on the church bulletins at the churches. You ever see the church bulletin? The back page has got all those ads on it. He advertised there. What happened? Sales took off, because that's a rifle approach. He's hitting his target audience. He's hitting the people most likely to buy. Right? It's the 80-20 rule. You know, when you say everybody's a potential customer, if you look at the market and you count up everybody that could conceivably buy, the evidence is clear-cut. It's consistent. All those people out there, 80% of any sales that happen will come from 20% of those customers. Meaning 80% of the customers ain't going to buy, or they ain't going to buy anytime soon. You segment and you target to try to reach the 20% that do all the buying, that are most likely to buy. Connie?
No, you answered the question. So after you find your, we call it target market, and you advertise to them or market to them, approximately 20% of that audience will
is likely, is going to generate whatever sales happen. Yeah. So you can waste a lot of time and money, and you don't have money, and your time is scarce. You need to segment and target. So what does that mean? Trying to figure out the people most likely to buy. Trying to find the people who have a unique need or a unique problem, a unique pain point. Right? So Diane rents bikes. She saved up over a couple years and acquired a bunch of bicycles, and she rents bikes. And she got kind of lucky, because there used to be something here in South Bend called Lime Bikes, and they pulled out of town about the time she entered the market, right? Well, what does Diane need to do first to successfully market her bike rental business? Now, she's got an angle, and her angle is what we call differentiation. Her angle is, I don't just rent bikes, I'll bring the bike to you, and when you're done with it, I'll come pick it up. Okay? What's Diane's first marketing problem? Segment the market, right. Find out who rides bikes and segment them into groups, right? Might there be people that come to South Bend and they're visiting here and they're looking for something to do while they're here? I mean, they took their tour of Notre Dame or they went to the Potawatomi Zoo, but they're looking for things to do, and they might rent bikes and go on a bike trail. Might they? Okay. And where are those people? Well, they're often staying in hotels, right? So if they're staying in hotels and I don't know who they are until they get here, I need to find a way to market to people staying in hotels in South Bend. And that's a segment. Might there be students at Notre Dame that don't have bikes but that would rent a bike on a given weekend? That's a whole different segment. And the marketing approach to them would be different than the one to the visitors staying in hotels. So what I've done here is provided you with segments that have been identified by some of our entrepreneurs. So Sinai Chocolates, this is Yvonne with her artisan chocolates. The market segments chocolate lovers. So this ain't me liking Hershey candy bars. These are much nicer chocolates. So these are people that would look down on a Hershey's candy, but they like nice chocolates. They're indulgers. They're treating themselves to these nice chocolates, right? What's different about them than the other three segments? See how you're thinking right now? This is what I want you to do about your own customers. This is what I want you to do about your own customers. What's different about that first segment than the other three?
It's more specific.
The first segment is buying for themselves. What are the other three segments doing? Buying for someone else. That's a big difference. I'm buying candy as a gift to give my wife versus I'm a chocolate indulger. I love chocolate and I like to treat myself to some nice chocolates. If you're buying chocolate for someone else, not for yourself, is the way I communicate to you and what I have to say probably need to be different than if you're treating yourself to some nice chocolates? Your marketing message would be different for the first segment versus even the givers. The people who are buying chocolate to give to someone else, right? I'm giving to you because I love you and I want you to think I think you're special, versus I'm giving to you because you're my teacher or you're somebody else that I'd give a gift to, but it isn't romantic. Well, my message needs to be different. My approach needs to be, those are different people. We worked with a neat lady who started a business called Virtual Brows and Beauty. This is some of the education of Mike Morris. I had no clue what microblading was. I now can tell you all about microblading. But she does people's eyebrows. She will shape them. She can make them fuller. She can make them different colors. But microblading. Who are her market segments? Well, she identified three. One, a younger sort of be cool, be attractive, be with it, 16 to 25-year-old female segment. Don't necessarily have a lot of money, but we'll scrape it together because They want to be fit in and be attractive and be liked, right? A second market segment that is a woman 40 to 55, probably has money, but is buying for a different reason. And a third market segment is women having cancer treatments and they've lost their hair and they still want to feel attractive and look pretty. 3 different market segments. Would you sell to those 17-year-old girls the same way you'd sell to those 40-year-old women? I don't think so. The way, how you'd reach them, what you'd say to them would be different. And then we have Brent and Brent Lacey. If any of you need screen printed t-shirts that have your company name or logo on them, Brent's your man. Switched on young man over in the Vol Sibley building. And he embroiders, yeah. I think he rebuilt the embroidery machine from, it's like some ancient machine, but Brent is doing screen printing, t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever, jackets like you got on. How's Brent segment the market? Well, a lot of clubs and organizations in local high schools and local colleges, Bethel, University of Indiana, South Bend, those clubs all want t-shirts that say marketing club or Spanish club or whatever. So there's one market segment. How do I reach students in schools, clubs? How do I find who the president of the club is? Who do I talk to? How do I get a message to those people? A second market is local companies with customer-facing workers. And I don't want big companies because they're probably buying their t-shirts at the corporate level somewhere else. So I'm going to focus more on companies with between 5 and 20 employees that are customer-facing. So moving companies, you know, that are in your house moving your stuff, right? Want them to have Bob's Movers t-shirt on, look professional. Landscape companies coming to your house, well, they don't want them wearing t-shirt, I want them to have company shirt on when they or small restaurants. And then the third segment is nonprofits that are putting on events, like we got a 5K race for women's breast cancer awareness. What's everybody there need to have? The 5K t-shirt, Brent's your man to print those, right? Why are those 3 distinct segments, Diane?
Because you have a different target.
And they buy in different ways. They make their purchase decision in different ways. Those student clubs make buying decisions different than a nonprofit does, different than going to the president of the 5-person moving company or lawn care company or whatever. The buying decision is made differently, and the criteria that they make the decision based on will differ. Their relative price sensitivity will differ, or how much you emphasize or don't emphasize price in your appeal, right? The complexity of the job, the size of the job. So, do you get the segmentation thing? I know I'm hitting it hard here, but does it make sense? Yes? Amen? Connie?
Those target markets for him also kind of be based on the idea that these types of organizations usually buy t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? Not so much.
His first cut was, if they don't need at least 50 t-shirts, they're not worth my time. He made that mistake. He spent a lot of time doing little jobs for 5 shirts at a time, and he's losing money. He was actually losing money. So he finally got the discipline and said, I got to turn certain jobs down. I need a certain size before it's worth my time and effort. And that's a hard thing for you to come to terms with because you're initially so desperate to get customers, you go, okay, 3 shirts, I'll make you 3 shirts. And not realizing I actually paid them for those shirts because I lost money. So that's the segmentation thing. Remember? So what do we do? Segment your market. Step 2, understand your buyer. And some of you started to say this before. Understand your buyer. Ask people how they buy coaching services or how they buy discovering their blind spots or how they buy cosmetics. Think about yourself, right? If you need to go buy a suit, a woman's business suit or a man's business suit, think about how you'd go about buying that. Think about what decisions you'd make. You want to think about how people buy couches, how people buy coaching, how people buy, because we all buy, the same person they buy gym shoes differently than they pick a school to go to. Or pick wine or whatever. But think about how you buy and what are you trying to get at when you think about your customers? What triggers the need to rent a bicycle? What triggers the need to go to a VR store and have a VR experience, virtual reality experience? What triggers the need to have a wedding planner? So, we have a business here, very inventive business, called Blind Spot. And Blind Spot has a methodology, a unique method to get information from people and tell them, here are your 3 blind spots. Here are things about you that maybe you don't really know or appreciate that might be undermining your relationships with people, your ability to be successful in an organization. Am I doing good here?
Yes.
Okay. So, if you were selling this blind spot service, what would trigger somebody's need for this service? So maybe entrepreneurs that just aren't good at communicating to customers. They got some blind spots, right? Well, what else would trigger? Yeah. Yeah. I just got divorced. What do you do when you get divorced? I got some experience on this. What do you do when you get divorced? You go, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? I mean, first you blame the other person, but at some point you can come around and go, well, maybe it's me, right? So some failed relationship has recently happened. That triggers me starting to question myself. I need to hit that person. That's timing, right? At that time. I need to find that person. So what triggers their need? You're going to get married, okay? You need a wedding planning service, right? Where would you look for information?
Google.
What would you Google?
Wedding planner.
Wedding planner?
Wedding planning services.
Wedding planning services, wedding planning services, South Bend?
Near me.
Near me?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. What's the issue we're trying to get at? CME does wedding planning? So we got a wedding planning business right here, right? What's she need to be thinking? Okay, well, if that's the number one way people find wedding planners, when they search wedding planners near me, how do we make sure her Facebook business page shows up? But she needs to be thinking, you know, if you tend to ask somebody else you know who recently got married, who did you use? Then word of mouth is something she's now got to try to stimulate so that people will pass on, right? So we have a number of cleaning businesses in the program, right? What's the number one way people find out how to find a cleaning service? Number one way people find out how to find a cleaning service in South Bend. I'm not big on cleaning. I need a cleaning company. What do? I live in a little complex. I asked two of my neighbors, what's been your experience? Who do you know that does cleaning? My whole purchase process in picking a cleaning service may begin and end with the recommendations I get from two neighbors. What's that mean? Well, if you're running a cleaning company, my neighbors need to know about you. Right. So what information sources does your customer use? What attributes do they consider in making a decision? How important is price? Try not to overemphasize price. Try to talk about everything other than price. But, you know, for some people, pickup and delivery may not be meaningful to them. Do you have any other pitch? Well, you provide a lot of expertise about the best places to ride bikes if you want a nature experience. That might be a meaningful attribute to me. So when people buy things, they buy attributes. They buy benefits. What are the attributes or benefits that you're selling? Who actually makes the decision? Remember this, I was talking about Adele and the VR place, right? Well, there's a market segment that Adele has uncovered, and that is children having birthday parties, right? Who makes the buying decision for the birthday party? The children or mom or dad? Probably mom, right? Does that give him some ideas about who he needs to be marketing to? If I want to push the birthday party part of the business. So we want to understand the buyer. Step 3, think strategically. You need to design a simple selling process. Design a simple selling process. What do I mean by that? You don't want to get too complicated, but think about what it takes to get a customer to a sale, to a purchase, to buying from you in terms of 3 or 4 key communication steps. So what I've put up here is the selling process for virtual brows and beauty. This is the client that was in our program who does the microblading. She's designed her selling process around 3 communication steps. What's her first problem? What? To create awareness. Awareness of what? Huh? Even if people know what microblading is, they never heard of Virtual Brows and Beauty. They don't know her company name. They don't know her brand name. They don't know. So her first communication problem is, I got to create awareness. Make people know when you think microblading, first top of the mind thing that comes to mind should be Virtual Brows and Beauty. I got to create awareness. Okay? Then what? Well, she's got a problem that some of you don't have. her problem is, okay, I kind of know what microblading is, but how does it work? Are they actually tattooing eyebrows on me, or are they going into my skin? Well, yes, they are. But it's not a tattoo. It's like the first layer of your dermis or your skin. But then what do people want to know? Does it hurt? Yeah, does it hurt? That's what one of a man would say, right? That's what I'd say. Well, does it hurt, right? And is it sanitary, right? Is it safe? Are you like licensed, right? So her problem is to create understanding, and in doing that, build interest, and then close the sale. So simple 3-step process. But her marketing is organized around those 3 steps. Create awareness, educate the customer, close the sale. That works for a microblading business. Now, what do you notice down here below? Specific tactics in each step. What are the things we do to create awareness? Well, we're going to speak at some community forums. We're going to have a Facebook business page. We're going to have a website. We're going to distribute flyers. We're going to have some brochures we distribute at salons or places people go for other beauty treatments. And we're going to do some co-marketing with some of those salons. We'll push your business, you push our business. We'll push customers to get their hair done at your place, you put people to have their eyebrows done at our place. Right? But that's the awareness part. Create understanding. What is the number one thing she needs to create understanding? And how can I do that? What's a tool for educating people? Okay, that'd be good. Make a video. That's the number one thing. Make a video. So our students made a video with her. If you go to her website or her first Facebook page, there's a video. But she doesn't try to sell her service in the video. What does she do? Let me educate you about microblading. Let me tell you, here's the room we do it in. You can see it's a modern, nice-looking room. It's all sanitized. These are the steps you go through. But she's walking you through so you feel comfortable, not intimidated or scared or nervous about whether this is a good thing to do. And so the video is the number one thing. She'll also offer you a free consultation session where she can explain some of the safety issues, right? What else is she using the free consultation session to do? She's also using it to close the sale, right? She's also, so now that I've explained how it works, we've got a special this month. Can I sign you up? Trying to close the sale. So she's using some tactics to accomplish more than one step in her process. Price promotions might be a little incentive to get you to act today. You've been thinking about microblading, you're uncertain, I need to get you over the finish line, I need to close the sale. Do you see what's happening here? What do you see happening? I'm thinking strategically, right? What are my communication challenges? How do I get people to use my wedding planning services or my VR center or my beauty care products? Beauty care products, right? What are a couple simple steps I need to take a person who's never heard of me and move them to a closed sale? Because you see, that's what marketing is. It's taking a customer by the hand and walking them to a closed sale. So, what's the key to all this? If you thought strategically, what did you do first? Segmented the market, right? What did you do second? thought about your buyers and how they buy and what triggers their need and what information sources do they use. Third, design a simple selling process. But what do we hit at this point? What do all of you hit at this point? You hit a wall because you got no money. You hit a wall because you got no money, or you don't have much money. So you're trying to do marketing. You're trying to come up with these tactics down here at the bottom in a way that works for you. So here's an example. This was for the Virtual Browsing Beauty of brainstorming what are the kind of things we might be able to do. Well, let's come up with 10 forums or venues where she could speak in the next 6 months. Let's determine specific upgrades for the Facebook page that will reinforce understanding. Let's script out the educational video. So you're trying to come up with tactics, and when you come up with tactics and you don't have any money, or you don't have much money, what happens? You get stuck. And this is when you have to do what? Yes. Yes. This is where you have to become a guerrilla. This is where you have to start to think alternative, to think different. Do you remember the story I told you back in the boot camp about the guy with the restaurant that had no money to do marketing? So he has a party at his restaurant right before his grand opening. And who did he invite to the party? All the hairdressers in town. Why did he invite hairdressers to the party? Because they talk a lot. They talk every day. They all got all these customers that come in all the hours of the day, and they're going to be talking about this cool restaurant that they just went to, the fun party at their restaurant, right? So that's guerrilla thinking. The guerrilla name comes from guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare is simply, what do you do when you're the small guy and you're fighting some big army, right? You don't have much. They got everything. How do you beat them? You beat them by being a guerrilla. When we fought in Vietnam, the Vietnamese used all kinds of clever, sneaky tactics. We had more weaponry, we had more money, but they were super clever. If you look at all through history, all the way back to David and Goliath, how's the little guy beat the big guy? How does your little entrepreneurial firm succeed in a marketplace when you're competing against people with bigger, deeper pockets and more resources? And you got to think like a guerrilla. You got to take advantage of your surroundings.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Stick with your idea in Vietnam. Is leveraging the resources.
Leveraging is a central theme of guerrilla.
If you've ever seen Vietnam, you ask yourself, you do a 360 and you go, whoever thought it was a good idea to fight a war here because of the jungles?
We got jungles, we got swamps, we got mountains.
Yeah, you couldn't fight that war.
And the other side cleverly took advantage of their surroundings.
Absolutely, yeah. That's,
Home court advantage indeed. Well, you got some home court advantage. You just need to see it and find it and exploit it, take advantage of it. So when we apply that kind of thinking not to the military but to marketing and entrepreneurial venture, it is unconventional tactics that rely on timing, energy, and imagination rather than a big budget. Unexpected, unconventional. Hairdressers are an unconventional way to communicate about my restaurant to people. So, here's a formal definition. Guerrilla marketing, marketing that is unconventional, non-traditional, unexpected, creative, low cost, not by the book, and more flexible. Certainly more flexible than trying to advertise in the newspaper or in a magazine. It is, as Ann just said, built around leveraging, meaning using other people's resources, stretching things, using things in unconventional ways, using things people don't think of as a resource. Wait a minute. Using things that people don't think of as a resource. Like the hairdresser example. Or there's a guy. He's an entrepreneur. He's got 3 pizza stores in Portland, Oregon. 3 pizza stores in Portland, Oregon. Portland's a decent-sized city, and in every decent-sized city in America, what will you find? Well, amongst other things, you'll find homeless people. And for the typical person and their family walking down the street, how do you treat a homeless person? You'd like to pretend that you'd give them a hug and help them out, but you'd look the other way, you'd cross the street, you'd ignore them, Well, this guy does the opposite. He embraces homeless people. He goes to homeless people in Portland and he says, "Hey, I'll feed you. I'll give you some money. I'll pay you. And here's what you need to do." Suddenly, you know how homeless people have those little scrawled out signs, cardboard signs? Suddenly, they're all holding signs that say, "I'm homeless. I've tried every kind of pizza in this town, and Johnny B's pizza is the best." Well, you'd be stunned at how many of those people you actually see in a given day. And over 60 days, Johnny B's sales take off. It's not that the story is that great, it's that most of us wouldn't see the homeless as a resource. All of you are surrounded by things that you take for granted that might be clever resources you could use, you could leverage. That's the guerrilla way. And so, it's doing more with less. It's using other people's resources. It's non-conventional media. Trying to influence that word of mouth. There's some tools like partnering, like with co-marketing. You scratch my back, I'll help you, I'll do the same for you. That's called reciprocity. It's something we're going to talk about in just a second called viral marketing, and something we're going to talk about in a moment called buzz marketing. It's using data and social media, finding ways to talk one-to-one. So I got a boatload of ideas, examples here. A guy that had a barber shop and he put people back in the chair, so he decides to use the ceiling to advertise on. Thinking different. I told you about the restaurant and the hairdressers. The example of so here's a classic guerrilla tactic. We had some kids who, when there's a shooting, a drive-by shooting, or violence in the city, they would take a person who'd been killed and they'd put their image on a shirt, right? But they started a business around this called RIP, Rest in Peace, clothing. These were young kids. And they did a pretty good job of selling a fair amount of the RIP clothing in the inner city. Where do they have a problem? trying to reach the suburbs, trying to get into the suburban schools and try to penetrate that market and sell their RIP clothing line there, right? So what's your problem? What do you do? Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's excellent. What kids do I want to wear my shirts in that suburban high school?
Maybe the popular kids, the kids that are part of some type of athletic club.
The quarterback of the football team?
Somebody build and advertise your product.
Yeah. So what they realized was we need to figure out who the cool kids are in the schools, who the opinion leaders are, who the influencers are. So they simply went and did a little survey of high school students, and any name that showed up at least 3 times they assumed was an influencer. They went to the influencers and said what? We will give you our shirts if you'll wear them. The influencers start wearing their shirts around the high school. All the other kids want them. Sales go nuts. That's guerrilla. That's thinking guerrilla. So, creating news. You'll find with your business, local media have slow days. They have slow news days. Days there just isn't much happening, right? And you want to hit them on those days with something provocative, right? So if you have a computer store and you're providing free computer training to senior citizens, might the fact that you're normally trying to sell computers and computer training, but you're offering free training to seniors, right? Might that be an interesting newspaper story on a slow news day? But you need to write that up and hit the newspaper and get them to do a story on it, right? Create news. Think of things you can do through your business to create news. You got a sidewalk in front of your store, your building, your house, whatever, or in front of some popular place. You got some chalk. There's a billboard for you right there. Doesn't cost anything. Just chalk the sidewalk. Special on chocolates today or whatever. I got a bunch more here. So I put one up there that we've got a entrepreneur in a program right now. I don't know if you all know Taylor Lake, but Taylor's got a mobile detailing business. So she'll come, I've used her service, she'll come to your house and detail your car for you, right? Well, if Taylor gets involved in some social organization, and you all need to do this, and she gets involved in some social organization that's dealing with, I don't know, child obesity or breast cancer or whatever, right? And she's involved in it because she believes in the cause, right? But what's a smart thing for her to do? She could do that, or she could simply say, the first 3 donors who give at least $100 will get a free car detailing from, I can't think of the name of her business, but Trophy detailing. Yeah, right? Well, the point is, by giving away a few free car washes through that social organization, thousands of people might hear about Trophy detailing. But you got to get involved in those organizations, right? we have a very, very cool organization that's been involved in the program. Some of you may know Connect to Be the Change, that is trying to deal with gun violence and the trauma it causes with children, right? Well, they got sponsored and they joined the Rotary, right? What do you think happened within 2 months of them joining the Rotary? The Rotary gets behind them on donating winter jackets and donates 60 winter jackets, right? But you got to get involved in social organizations, social clubs. It could be organizations that are civic organizations. It could be cause-related organizations. But, and I know this sounds cynical, but well, you're trying to use those organizations to promote your business, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you don't want to exploit them in an unfair or inappropriate way, but there's nothing wrong with, and it's a key way to do what? Spur, what's the thing we're all trying to do here? Word of mouth. Spread that word of mouth. Spread that word of mouth and have something we're just about to get to called a viral effect. If there's one thing we all know something about now, it's viruses, right? One person gets COVID and gives it to 2 people, those 2 people give it to 4 people, those 4 people give it to 8 people, and it exponentially increases. That's how word of mouth works. I tell you two each tell 2 people, those 2 people each tell 2 people, and you get this viral effect. That's why you're trying to spur word of mouth. So, bumper stickers on cars, write articles for the newspaper, go in and try to get underutilized space. We had a woman who had a flower shop, but her flower shop was located, you know when you're in the city and they got those stores that are, you go down the stairs to get to the store? So there's no street visibility, right? What she did was she went to coffee shops and open air markets around the neighborhood where her store was and put flower displays out there on the tables with a card, "Flowers by Betty" or whatever. But using their tables, using their, what do you want to use? I don't know. Most places have a bathroom. What are you doing when you're sitting in a stall? Nothing. Well, look at the door. The door is an advertising billboard that should have something about your business sitting there. Right? Use that space. Use that. See it everywhere. What's the most underutilized medium in a grocery store? The cart, the basket, right? Think of how you could use a basket with marketing messages on it, right? So you just gotta think that way. I love these guys that had a little fish and chips shop, and they're trying to get business at their fish and chips shop, and they go to people waiting in line to use the ATMs, and they give them this little fish-looking card that had a special deal on it, and a bunch of people went from the ATM machine to the fish store. It's just so, and the beat goes on. I got more ideas here. You know, you have a discount card, and it goes up in value every time this time you got a 2% discount, next time you get a 3% discount or whatever. I try to do co-marketing. So Airbnb faces a problem with women worrying about the safety of the homes or apartments they may stay in through Airbnb. So how do I convey a message of safety and security? Well, they co-market with Stay Free feminine pads, which have a image of safety, and they help support each other through the marketing effort. I love the mattress store. What's the problem with buying a mattress? You don't know whether it works with your back and how you sleep until you sleep on it. You got to buy it to sleep on it. Well, they go, no, we're going to give you a little taste of it by having a sleepover at the mattress store. Bring your jammies. We'll make a party out of it, and you get to sleep on the mattress, and then you'll know whether you really want it or not. There's a lot of your products where you can, it's even like Blind Spot. How do we give them a little taste of it so that then they'll buy in? So we'll have some kind of a what? We'll have some open forum on some.
On social media with like one of the relationship specialists, kind of how we do it in the program. They can get a little taste of that.
Get a little taste.
Yeah.
Think, oh, I want to know more. I think I better sign up. Yeah. So think about this. There's an online newspaper called the Huffington Post. Huffington Post. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not. But the Huffington Post is not hard copy, it's online, right? They came up with a brilliant guerrilla tactic. The headline story in the Huffington Post for one issue, they simply titled, "What Time is the Super Bowl?" Right? And it was a story, I don't know, about the Super Bowl or whatever, but they simply titled it, "What Time is the Super Bowl?" Why? How many people do you think right before the Super Bowl go on Google and type in, "What time is the Super Bowl?" And where's the first thing that's going to pop up? The Huffington Post. Huge exposure just by a clever, let me title the article, "What Time is the Super Bowl?" You know, Mrs. Fields cookies. You know Mrs. Fields? Her cookies? Well, she came up with the clever guerrilla tactic of what happens when you give blood. Well, your blood level's down, you might pass out, they want you to sit for a minute, they may give you something sweet like a Mrs. Fields cookie, right? Well, that's co-market. That's a clever way to create awareness and because I got a Mrs. Fields cookie at the blood bank, I think, oh, that must be a good company. They support blood donations, right? Well, it's just a clever way to get the word out, get the visibility, create the awareness. I hope you understand, I'm not presenting any of these saying, go do that. I'm just trying to stretch your mind so you start to get some stimuli that'll allow you to think, okay, what different kind of thing can I do to create similar kind of awareness? So, I have a handout. And I have people. Thank you.
Yep.
So the problem with Guerrilla, well, what is the problem with Guerrilla? Every one of these examples I've given you is sort of idiosyncratic. It's sort of unique to what they did with this guy or what they did. What I tried to do is go, okay, there's a million guerrilla ideas out there. It's all about your creativity, but let me put it into some categories. Because I think if you have categories, that can get your thinking going. That can better stimulate your creativity. So this sheet that's coming around are guerrilla categories, at least according to Mike. My own take at here are some standard kind of categories of guerrilla, things you can do in general. So you'll see there, sorry, Corey, I'm probably driving you nuts. Can I have one? Thanks.
Think about it.
So bartering. My favorite entrepreneur in the world, I'm sorry you're on the list, but my favorite is a guy that I've worked with for years in South Africa named Lavoyo Rani. Lavoyo is the master gorilla. He's built this company. His dream was, I want to bring computer literacy to the impoverished millions in South Africa. The people who live in shanty towns and shacks. And he's done that. He's now up to 60 locations across South Africa. But when I met him, he was just starting his first location and he was struggling. A fascinating journey. But my point in telling you this is, first of all, he's got 60 locations now. He's successful. I tell you, he does as much guerrilla today as he did the first day. It's not like I got money now, so I don't have to do that. I believe that's the way to do it. I think that's more effective. So Lavoyo, he's done so many things, but he'd go to a person whose house, and I say house loosely, generously, because it's a shack. She'd go to a lady with a shack, but he'd pick the shack carefully because it's at an intersection of two key roads, and 15,000 cars a day go through that intersection. He'd say to the lady, the back of your house that faces the intersection, I want to paint Sululu, that's the name of his business, computer train, I want to put my sign on the back of your house. And she'd say, what's in it for me? He'd go, I'll give you a computer and I'll give you free computer training if I can put my sign there for 6 months. Right? Barter. He would walk into, I just love the way he thinks. And that's how I want you to think. Lavoyo would walk into, so in the township of Keough, which is now 2 million people living in shacks, dirt roads that are slowly paved, right outside big city. He'd go into Keough and he'd see these guys have just started a little radio station. He'd go into the radio station and you got to be looking around. He's looking around and he sees they don't have hardly any computers at this radio station. And he talks to a couple employees, and the employees go, we don't know how to use computers. We can punch things so we can broadcast, but we don't know much about computers. So what does Lavoyo say? Barter. I'll give you some computers and I'll train your staff if you give me airtime for advertising. No. That would be logical. You do advertising in my business, I'll give you computers. But he takes it to another level. He says, give me a radio show. That's ballsy, right? Give me a radio show and let me talk 15 minutes once a week about technology. I'm not going to talk about my company, I'm just going to talk about technology. And they go, okay, we're looking for more programming anyway. Sure. Nobody's going to listen to a show on technology, but, well, what happens is that's the #1 show on the radio station. It's now an hour long. He does it every week. It's 12 years later. He's still doing an hour-long radio show. Barter. And how much business do you think he's gotten because of that radio show? And not promoting himself. So what I've tried to do is list a bunch of categories where you can just pick one of these. Co-marketing. Okay, let me just come up with some guerrilla ideas about co-marketing. Or barter. Or creating news. I'm going to try to create some news that'll show up in local media because it's provocative. Does it make sense? Yes? No? Amen? So, this is one of my favorite stories. Thinking like a gorilla. There's a guy that we work with in South Africa, and he loved to dance. He loved to dance. But his business was he would take Coke cans or Pepsi or any kind of soft drink cans, and he would cut them up, and he would make necklaces and bracelets, and he even made a whole dress out of Coke cans. It was cool stuff. It sounds weird when I describe it. It was really cool stuff, right? That's his business. But he loved to dance. That was his passion. So he would go to the kids in the townships, in the shanty towns, and he would give them dance lessons. The young children. But they could not afford to pay for the dance lessons. So how did they pay? They paid in cans. The kids would collect the cans, bring the cans. That's their payment for the dances. That's his raw material to make the... He's thinking like a gorilla. He's just thinking different. So, this is an example of a guerrilla budget. Keep in mind, if you had 3 car washes in South Bend and you did 3 months of radio advertising, you could easily spend $150,000 like that. $150,000 on radio ads for 3 months. And you could have nothing to show for it. Here, I'm showing you a budget where I'm spending $2,300, but in a guerrilla way, on things that I can get local mileage out of, trying to target a market. I'm not just doing this randomly. I'm trying to do the 4 steps, but clever things I can do without spending a lot of money. Being strategic, but being a guerrilla. There's 2 more terms I need to get in here. Well, I think you might enjoy this. This is Harley Davidson. Are they successful, Harley Davidson? They have the smallest advertising budget in the motorcycle industry. They spend far less than anybody. Honda spends millions on advertising their motorcycles. Kawasaki, whoever else. Harley spends almost nothing. They're gorillas. How much is an ad on the Super Bowl? You pay a couple million for a 15-second spot. Do people watch the Super Bowl? Yes, they do. About 140, 50 million people watch the Super Bowl. I don't know about you, but I'll tell you what I watch.
Commercials.
I watch the commercials, and I watch the halftime show. Harley goes to the organizers of the Super Bowl and lets them, for 60 days, donates 20 Harleys. Didn't give them, they get them back, but for 60 days, while you're organizing this whole, here what do you think happens? They redesigned the halftime show to include some of the key players coming out on Harleys. 150 million people saw Harleys, and Harley paid nothing to get all that exposure. That's just clever. That's just guerrilla. That's just thinking a little different. And they're the masters of guerrilla marketing. Their employees all wear the clothes. Their employees all ride Harleys. Their employees all go to road rallies, and it's all marketing. So, 3 key questions to guide your effort. I'm sorry I'm going over a little bit, and just bear with me, I'll wrap this up. But 3 key things to guide your efforts. 3 key questions. When you're sitting there and you go, okay, Mike's giving me a 4-step process, but the tricky one is step 4. I can segment my market, I can think about my buyers and how they buy, I can come up with a 3-step process for selling. But the tough part is I got to come up with these guerrilla ideas, right? 3 questions you should ask yourself. And I don't mean just flippantly. I mean sit down with a piece of paper, maybe a glass of wine or something, and fill out a sheet of paper on each of these questions. Question 1, what resources do I have myself that I'm not fully utilizing? Right? What resources do I have? So what's your first resource? Your body, right? What am I wearing that promotes my business? Right? What else you got? You got a car or a truck. If I go out in a parking lot, I'll bet you I don't see your company names on your cars anywhere. Is it on there? Amen. Yeah. That's a resource. You might start to see you got a lot of resources your own that could be marketing vehicles. I've told you the story before, but I love the story of the guy. He's a plumber. So he's got his plumber's truck. And on the door panel next to the driver's seat, outside, he paints a toilet with a pair of legs with the pants pulled down to the knees. So it looks like the driver of the truck is sitting on a john. Right? What do plumbers do? They fix toilets. How many people see that every day? Mom, look at that guy. He's sitting on a toilet while he drives a car. And there's a big sign that says, Jimmy's Plumbing. All those cars are going to remember Jimmy's Plumbing. Using your vehicle in a different kind of way. So whether it's your website or you're maxing out, whether it's your Facebook page or you're maxing out that space and what you're putting in that space, what surprises me is how you underutilize your packaging. Right? So when Sinai delivers chocolates and it's in a bag and here's the chocolates, there needs to be a flyer or a postcard or something in that bag as well that they hold on to beyond the chocolates. Taking advantage of the packaging. When Taylor comes and details my car, what does she need to leave in it? A mint, a flyer, a little card, maybe a coupon for 20% off, a bigger than normal business card that I can sort of keep in my car and give to a friend saying I need my car detailed, or, you know. Then how well are we leveraging relationships or people in your network? Who do you know and what can they do for you? You know me. I'm part of your network. Well, there's a lot more to your network than maybe you think until you sit down and start to draw it out. What is my network? Who are my friends? Who are my professional acquaintances? Who's my doctor? Think of your whole network, all the people you interact with, and then go, okay, now I know who they all are. How can I use my doctor? How can I use Morris? How can I... And then third question is, what untapped or underutilized resources are there in the community? Whether that's the back of bathroom doors of restaurants I like to go to, whether that's those tables where I could put my flowers, whether that's car bumpers, right? you know, get 100 people to put a bumper sticker on their car that's got your business name on it, then tens of thousands of people are going to see your business name. Opinion leaders, houses on prominent corners, walls in restrooms, tabletops, car bumpers, abandoned buildings, school kitchens during the summer, stay-at-home mom and dads. That maybe could do something for you. But try to get out of the box here in each of these three areas, and then I think you start to see things we could do. If we got a little clever, how do I take advantage of that? How do I? So the whole thing is leveraging resources. It's not making big commitments to advertising contracts or billboards or whatever. The two things I want to close with, which are great vehicles for Guerrilla, is something called viral marketing and buzz marketing. Viral marketing is trying to play word of mouth to have a viral effect. What's the most popular word in marketing when it comes to customers? Free. That's it. That's the number one word, free. I'm not telling you to give a lot of free stuff away. But think about this story. I was in Oklahoma, and in the town I was in, which was a university town, they opened a Jimmy John's. They opened a Jimmy John's, and all they had done was get 30 email addresses for students. 30 email addresses for students. They sent those people at 5 o'clock, just this small group of 30 emails. They sent them an email message. Free sandwiches at Jimmy John's from 10 to 2 tomorrow. Free sandwiches at Jimmy John's from 10 to 2 tomorrow. By 11 in the morning, there was a mile-long line of cars to get to Jimmy John's. What I'm trying to say is, well, you tell me, what happened? There was a viral effect. Because what did those 30 or so kids do? They each told 5 people. And each of those 5 people told 5 people. So by the next morning, 50,000 people knew about this. That's a viral effect. If I just think of weird, dumb things, okay? So, because I think weird, dumb can lead to weird, brilliant. But if I said to, I took the offensive players on the Notre Dame football team, and I took those offensive players, and let's assume there's 30 of them, and I have them write on their forehead, the quarterback's mother's name is Madeline. And I had those football players walk across the campus with that on their forehead for 3 days. You with me? I just take 30 guys, quarterback's mother's name is Madeline. If a week later I did a survey of all the students at Notre Dame, and I simply asked, what's the quarterback's mother's name? What will I find from 12,000 students? Overwhelming awareness of the name Madeline. Why? Because there was a viral effect. You don't expect to see something on these foreheads in the first place. These are football players, so they're popular. You go, what the hell is that? Why has they got that? But what do? I tell my friend about it. And she tells her friend about it. You get that's what you're trying to stimulate, the viral effect. And the other side of this is called buzz. Buzz marketing. Creating buzz. There was a jewelry store. And the jewelry store ran a promotion. And the promotion was, so when did jewelry stores make 75% of their revenue for the year? No, Christmas. Christmas is their biggest, disproportionately, much of their, so they ran a promotion, and the promotion said this: buy a diamond, bracelet, necklace, buy a diamond from Morris Jewelry between December 1st and December 21st. Buy a diamond from Morris Jeweler between December 1st and December 21st, and if it's a white Christmas this year, we'll give you back 80% of your purchase price. What do you start to, what do you say? That's crazy, right?
It's risky.
It's risky, it's crazy, but what's the thing you're going to do? You're going to go, that guy's nuts. What's he doing? Have you heard about this guy? 80% back if there's a white Christmas. He's going to lose his shirt. But what am I doing? I'm talking about it. And you're talking about it. And a buzz starts happening. Right? And if you can create a buzz and then generate a viral effect, magic happens. And that's what he did. Now, what do you think this guy did beforehand? He studied meteorological charts and weather forecasts and what's the markup on jewelry? How much do you think they mark up jewelry over their cost? 300%. 300%. So even if he gives 80% back, he's not going to lose money, right? Not as risky, but the average person doesn't know that. They just go, this guy's nuts. I'm going to go buy a diamond. So the viral effect, the buzz effect, the remaining slides, and I'll send you all the slides, but with viral, give away products for free, provide effort, make it as easy as possible for somebody to transfer the message to the next person, to share the message. Ensure it scales easily. Exploit common motivations. Things like greed, fear, desire to be loved, desire to be popular, desire to be understood, desire to be cool. How can you weave that into you and your product and the message that you're trying to post and stimulate this viral, this spread the word kind of thing. Use communication networks. You have a network and the people you know have networks. Think about a waiter's network. All the people a given waitress or waiter would know. So, sorry, I hit something here. Then with buzz, 6 buttons of buzz: the taboo, the unusual, the outrageous, the hilarious, the remarkable, or the secret. That creates buzz. When you can play on that around something tied to your business or something you get associated with your business. Capturing attention. David and Goliath stories, human interest, unusual or outrageous stories, controversy stories, celebrity stories, something that's hot right now.